Hello, and welcome to the Innovia podcast. I'm Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Brgalski. Aren't you supposed to say the Innovia conversation, though, Steve? Or are we switching it up?
Well, probably. All right, take two. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Innovia conversation. Is that better, Jeff?
Perfect. Now, I'm just asking. You could have kept going. I'm fine.
You know, I guess the first time I did that, and so it's the Innovia conversation. You are absolutely correct. And guess what, Jeff? On the Innovia conversation today, it's called Thinking Outside the Box.
Wow, that's a deep topic. Look, we probably need help for that.
Oh, we need lots of help. And so, and I think I invited our guru, our service and support lead, Holly Kutil, is with us today. Hi, Holly.
Hi. Well, let me get out of the box. Hi, guys.
Hey.
I got out of the box just for today.
Nice.
How's it going?
Good. It's great to have you back. It's been a while. You know, as many of you remember, Holly's been with us now for, a year and a half?
Yes.
Longer than that.
A little
NAV
over.
All-Star, past chairman of the board for the NAVOG Advisory Committee. So,
Yeah.
And now
And
queen of our support team.
Right. I like my new title better. Queen of support, or now as we call it, is customer care.
Customer care. And that's great. So, welcome, Holly. And
Thank you.
so Jeff, and we were talking about, with the environment the way it is now, with the COVID-19 and people working remote, we thought of what a good podcast, I think, would be, is really for people to think outside the box and look at doing, taking this time, because, some of the customers that we've talked with have been profoundly affected. Some have actually gotten busier, and some, because the business is normal. And but what I have found is that when things tend maybe to slow down, or we're not traveling as much, there's some more time out there, and to me that's an opportunity. And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, so I think kind of what we're going to look at, Jeff, is talk about things we can do during this time to help us on our journey for personal development. Maybe looking at ways we can increase our training, our habits, and then really kind of having a discussion on, is it time to review some of the processes we're doing within our company? So what do you think about those topics? Are those good topics we should stick with?
Wow, that sounds great to me. I know that from the customers that I've been interacting with over the past 5 or 6 weeks, we've had some people that have gotten busier, some people that are really uncertain about the future, some that want to, make strategic decisions now. And so absolutely, I think as my travel schedule went down to zero, I found a lot of extra time that I wasn't anticipating. And I think absolutely we need some guidance on how to best take advantage of that for those of us who are fortunate enough to have it.
Right. And I think the first topic maybe we can get into is it's kind of that personal development, and just every day, it's we don't want it to be Groundhog's Day, right? You think of with Bill Murray, that it's just like, oh my gosh, and I think it's that mindset of gratitude when you get up in the morning, just to go out there and and just make the day the best you can. And I know, Holly, you since you've taken over our support team, I know you've kind of really took that message to heart, I think, with you and your team.
Oh, thanks, Steve. It is a unique time that we're sitting in, and we can choose to either make the most of the time, or we could squander the time. And so with the support team, what we've decided to do is make the best use of our time. And so in some aspects, we're very busy, and in other aspects, we're very slow. And so figuring out that mix, and then what do we do with the rest of our time, has really become key. And so we've taken time to do those things. We've looked for some great training opportunities around customer support and how we interact with our customers, how we communicate, the things that we say we're going to do, we do them, and reviewing those things, looking at feedback and customer surveys and how we can improve. So we've utilized some of the time for those opportunities. We've also done some strategic training on the ISVs that we work closely with, and in Business Central and the new releases coming out as well. So we've put it out there, and everybody's got different areas that they're strengths in and that they have a passion about. And so each person has selected some things they'd like to do, and we put it out there for them to do.
Great. You got any examples you want to share?
Sure. So one of the things that my team has done is we follow a author called Shep Hyken, and he's a customer service advocate. Over the summer last year, we read his book as a team. So that's something we do. We have a book club. We read books together pretty regular and then talk about them in our team meetings. And so last summer, we read Be Amazing or Go Home around customer service. And he offered a free class during this quarantine time to anyone that was interested. And so the whole support team took advantage of that and participated in a free training with Shep Hyken. We did 5 days, and then he did a live webinar presentation with us where we got to sit in class with him and talk with him and interact, which was really, really cool.
Just you and the support team?
Correct. Everyone on the support team, and it was a certified class that we were able to take for free that he offered during the quarantine. So we were ready to go and looking for opportunities, and it came up, and we jumped right in on that. So that was a great chance for us. Inovia as a whole, we had an opportunity with JET to schedule training with our top 10 consultants that work with JET. So we took those that work with JET the most, and we put them in a full week training. So all day, every day for 5 days, they're in a training with JET reports to build their skills and take it to the next level. Next week, we have training with E1. There's, I think, 9 of us in the E1 training next week on working with their products to level up there. So each and every week, we seem to be finding more things to do and to continue to build the skills of the team individually and as groups.
And I think that's great, Holly, because I think a lot of times when you have that extra time, and I think of all the times customers have said to me, "Oh, we're too busy, right? We're too busy to tackle that." Well, now maybe having that time, what you're doing, and Jeff is going through the JET reporting, JET Jeff, right? And he's been sitting in those too. And are you doing the training next week too, Jeff, or?
Depending on my demo schedule, I certainly would like to.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something that as I transition to a more technical pre-sales role that I've also been taking advantage of. That was a big announcement when Microsoft announced that all of their events through July 2021 are going to be delivered virtual. But I took advantage of that. The Power Platform event that was, I think it was $1,000 to attend. When it became virtual, it was free, so I signed up for that right away and got in. Our own event, going to virtual, hopefully will mean that it will increase the number of attendees because it's going to be easier for people to attend. So certainly that's something that I've tried to take advantage of as my travel schedule allowed with all the stuff being canceled. So yeah, that's I think across the board at Inovia, everyone's trying to take advantage of that, and that's going to benefit our customers coming out of this mess.
And Holly talked about the book report, and I think of, it's probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I was never a big reader outside of reading sports, box scores, and staying up with my teams and stuff. And I made the commitment I'm going to read at least one book a month. And then about a little over a year ago, I'm up to 2 books a month. And just really, there's a saying: when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. And I think what we deal with in the world of sales is this word called change. And it's amazing how people will fight change to the death, right? It's people will stay with the devil they know versus the devil they don't know, because at least they know what they have on it. And it's getting that mindset and that personal development mindset, I think, to be a student, right? And there's numbers when I did sales training, and the first time I heard this number, I was just blown away that 90% of salespeople have never read a book on selling, or been to a seminar or a webinar, and those are the people representing their companies to grow their revenue, right, and bring in new business. And I was just always blown away by that. But that's why they kind of get in that 80-20 rule, like the top, the tops, and it seems like that, as you get involved with other aspects of companies, that you see that it's that you have a certain group that just kind of lead and a certain group of followers. But I think everybody can benefit just from doing that, and I think that's awesome that you're doing that. And Jeff, I don't know about you, if you listen to Audible or if you're reading any books, Jeff. He's so busy. We just the busiest guy at the company. We were talking with Jim on a past podcast that Jeff has a hard time saying no to people internally because he's a nice guy. And but I think
I'm going to practice with you, Steve. No.
Right. I was going to say, when does Jeff have time to read books? He's like in trainings or demos or setting something up every time I talk to him or I see him somewhere.
I'm going to have to get you the book. It's called Go for No. I'll get you that book, Jeff. So, but anyway, so do you think when I talked about change, and one of the things that always comes up is process. When we inherit a lot of companies that their ERP system is not working, or they're having trouble going live, or it's just a mess, it's almost like in the early stages that they really skipped a process of mapping out what they want to do. Because it's easy, especially as an ERP partner, to kind of say, okay, you want to do this? Okay, here you go. Well, that's not really what I wanted to do. Versus having that conversation, what are you doing now? Why are you doing it? Right? And it's that conversation, I think, too, of when, the people have been doing something for 20 or 30 years, they just want to reinvent the old process. And so I want to kind of get your thoughts on, what would you tell our listeners on maybe using this time to take a look and reviewing the process as a process improvement? Anything you think you could add to that? That'd be helpful for our listeners. Holly?
Well, yeah, I'm going to say that has to be asked of Holly, since I'm not a great process guy.
You're not a great process guy? Come on. I don't buy that for a minute.
Unless the process is like really messy, then I'd probably be a good process guy. But no, let's see what Holly. Let's give Holly a first shot at that.
Or tennis shoes. With tennis shoe processing, Jeff be all in.
There you go.
Yeah. So you know what? We've been reviewing our processes in-house. So things that we've done is we're looking at, our ticket board, our processes that we use within the company and as the support team as a whole. We've wanted to upgrade our customer portal for ConnectWise and sort of put it off because we've been too busy. And so that's something we're working on now is doing that update to the newer, fresher looking customer portal and working with our marketing team to brand it. So we're doing some process changes and updates where we can as well internally. But for our customers, same thing. Look, this is a great time to do things that maybe you don't want to spend money and you're trying to hang on to your cash flow. And that's great too. There's things you could do that don't cost. And that's looking at those internal processes and nav. What aren't we using? What might be under the hood? You can always go back and look at release notes from your version and see what is there. You could look at the newer release notes, and maybe it's not in your version, but it might be a simple modification that can be done so that you can utilize the same type of process that you're seeing in the newer versions along the way. Or just to review those newer release notes so that you can start planning that upgrade path and what that's going to look like for you. And how about there, looking for those automation opportunities. Are you utilizing the batch posting? Are you utilizing setting up job queues or the task schedulers for things that make sense in your company and in your system? Are you still doing things manually? Are you still putting them on spreadsheets? And how does that work? And seeing what's there that you can update and change. and look at those workflows. Another great thing that I used to like to do when I was on the end user side was cross train. So a great time to have a purchasing person do some sales orders and a salesperson do some purchasing and work together. And even though they're remote, they could still hop on. And, most of our clients have access to Office 365. They're in the Microsoft space. And so they have both Dynamics products and they have the Office products. And what a great, way to jump into Teams and throw up a spreadsheet and work together. You could, use Teams and work on Nav together. And sometimes when you have someone from purchasing and sales working together, they'll figure things out and bring them to you that will help change processes and make things better on one or both sides. Same if you do sales and shipping and receiving and purchasing. It's amazing when you put those two people together, how they see things from the other side of the fence and can bring ideas to the table that help one another as they're working through things. And one of the stories I tell often was when we had sales and shipping work together, and they spent a half a day doing sales orders together, and then the second half of the day out doing and shipping together. And the salesperson's watching the shipper do the shipping, and then it's his turn, and so he takes over, and now the shipper's watching the salesperson ship. And each time he gets an international, he has to stop, get out of the shipping part of the product, go back to the sales order, get the phone number from the order, come back to the shipping, put it in the contacts of the shipping person, and then restart his packing. He goes, you got to do this every time it's an international or every time it's a COD. And the shipper goes, yeah, all day long. He goes, wow, if we'd have known that, we could have just put that in there when we create the order. It would just take a second to copy paste it in there, one more spot. And he goes, really? You could do that? He goes, yeah, we'll start doing it now. He goes in the office, tells the sales team, they all start doing it. And that was the end of that. But you think of how much time that simple little thing changed how shipping happened and how much time it saved each shipper from not having to exit the shipping product, go back to the sales order, get the information, come back, put it back in, restart the packaging, and ship that product out. So sometimes those spend that half day cross training and working together and change.
Yeah, those
hours
are great
and hours of work.
I know we do a couple of presentations on what if your process isn't the problem, or what if your process is the problem, right, Jeff? and I think Holly, things that because you talked about getting people together. In my previous life, we had these cross-functional teams because, because if you're in silos, you're in a silo. And if you're the one that's going to say, okay, I want to fix this process, you're only seeing it from your view. And by getting the stakeholders together and communicating, because I was just thinking years ago, I was on a panel and we were shipping directly to end users versus going through distributors. And the price point where we sold cases of product was 10. And so we would have customers that would order 10 cases 3 or 4 times a week. And the shipping cost on a common carrier to send these cases was ridiculous. And I remember, sitting in one of these panels and, as a salesperson, they're like, well, why don't you guys tell them to make bigger orders? I'm like, there's no incentive for them to make a bigger order because it's kind of like Amazon, right? You can just order, click, buy different things on Prime and it doesn't affect your shipping cost. And it's something that you thought was so easy. I'm like, well, if you had different brackets and, kind of created 10 cases, 30, 60, and 300 to give them price incentives to want to do that. And this is going back a long time, but just the process of getting the right people in a room together, like something you thought that made sense. Somebody else was like, oh, we just, it was a competitive reason why they did it years ago, but now it's the cost of it became so prohibitive. But Jeff, anything you want to add to that, or on how to maybe put together a team?
I don't think
you're good
I'm
with
the
teams.
right. Yeah, right. Well, that's a completely different topic.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did a webinar on Teams, Holly.
There's too many Teams questions lately, especially on the licensing side. No, I think though, that is also though a good segue into, working remotely as I have for the last 8 or 9 years, I would be interested to hear your opinions about how the current state in a remote workforce, if that if that changes the way that you assemble teams, or if that's I guess I would see some advantages to the current situation, but maybe that's because I'm the eternal optimist. What do you think about that? Do you think this new kind of remote work that most companies who are still transacting in this in the time of this virus, do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage for the teams?
Both. Depends on where you were sitting at, but benefit, remote workers are 50% more productive than office workers. Just the fact you don't have the distractions at working remote that you do sitting in an office. And so you tend to be more productive and have more concentrated focus time on your work. So you could get a lot more done in a lot shorter time. So not only are you generally more productive, you're more productive in less time. So what you normally would do in an 8-hour workday, you're probably able to do in 4 or 5 hours at home and be productive. What does that do? That leaves you more time for training and other things as well. So individually and as workers, I think they are going to find that they have more concentrated work time and ability to get things done much quicker than when they're in a busy office space and area. So I think that's a definite bonus. I think from the management side, I think that especially here in the US, people have been really afraid of this whole idea of letting our people work remote and not be tethered to a desk in the office where we can see them out the window. And I think they're going to find that this might be an advantage to them to free that up. They may still have an office that people come into or out of, but I think we may see more freedom on the being able to take your laptop and work from home because your kids aren't feeling great. I think people have been afraid of that sort of virtual aspect of things, and I think it's important in the day we live. A mother who's sitting in an office worrying about her sick kids at home or with a babysitter or grandma is not giving you 100%. A mother who's at home with her laptop and can keep an eye on those kids is going to give you 100%. So which is the better option? Is to have them work remote. And I think we've seen corporately, people are afraid to let that happen. And this may open their eyes to the fact that, that's not a bad idea. This can work. We may see some more of that. And I know the younger generation, that's what they want. They want that freedom.
You're going where I was thinking on that, Holly.
Right? They want to be able to have the job and the career and a family and to be able to work remotely. Or, I'm going to work from home today because the kids are off. And then I don't have to worry about what they're doing or where they're at or who I'm leaving with them with. And I'm also not sitting at work worrying about it and not giving you 100% either.
Right. And
so I think that's going to be key. So I think there's a lot of advantages to what's happened. We've seen it across the board. You keep seeing the clean lakes and the clean skies and things like that, that the earth has gotten a rest from all of us. And I think maybe the office space has gotten a rest too. And people are saying that, remote working isn't so scary after all.
And Jeff, to add to that is, I'm kind of like you. So for the last 30 years, my office is out of my home. And when I started, didn't have a laptop. Basically had a phone. But, what the advantages, a couple things to add on what Holly said is that, we're more of a service company. It's easier for us to do it. We have the equipment in place. So I think some companies, if they really don't have the technology or, the devices to give to their workers there could be some additional cost. But at the end of the day, to me, I think it's been it's the access to more people. Because it's funny because right now we have we're on Teams and I know you have your camera off, but Holly and I have our camera on, right? So we're kind of seeing people more even though they're not directly in front of us. I think that's huge. Just last week, we had a couple team meetings with customers all over the United States that everybody flipped on the camera, and that hasn't happened really. And that was kind of neat that we got to kind of see each other and doing that without having to incur the cost of traveling, all the way. Granted, I'm a big face-to-face person. I strongly believe that everything changes when you're in front of the customer, face-to-face. But you kind of are, right? I mean, would you view this as if you had your camera on, we're kind of face-to-face? I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think we are.
Go ahead, Holly.
Well, I think the same thing. That's a great point. Prior to the stay-home orders that everyone's gotten, we've done team meetings since I've been with Innovia. We've had team meetings, go-to meetings, Zoom meetings, all the different kinds of platforms there are. We access whatever the customer likes to work from, but nobody has their cameras on. It's all behind. We're all hidden, and this whole stay home thing, I don't know exactly why or how, but somehow it brought the cameras out of, okay, let's turn the cameras on. Let's be connected. And it's nice. I like it. And I think, I get on and people are like, it's Holly, you're really there. And then they click up their cameras and join in too. And so I think that's been another good thing. That's a great point.
Jeff, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that, I have been, I've enjoyed I've enjoyed the seeing people that I haven't seen before, because I think in some of the meetings that we've been on, just internal Innovia meetings, I've heard people say, "Hey, I've worked here for 3 years and I've never met you. I've never seen you in person." So I like that aspect. I had a customer on one of our calls say that she wasn't going to turn on her camera like everyone on the Innovia side of the call had turned the cameras on. She said, "Yeah, I've got to visit a hairdresser to address some hair issues before I turn mine on." So I think it is that's certainly a silver lining of this whole situation, is that getting to see people in their home office and be more connected through video. I think that's great.
Yeah, because you have to personal hygiene comes into play, right? It's like you see those commercials of people sitting there with their shirt on and they're in their pajamas or whatever. But I think not a challenge, but the routines have changed.
Right.
We were talking about that. So like my wife was my alarm clock, so she would get up, and by the time she showered and got out, it was 6:15, and I just knew that was my time to get up. Well, now she's not going to school, and it's every day now. It's like, okay, now I actually have to set an alarm. So I get up at that. I want to get my I want to get in my I'd like to do some steps in the morning, whatever. Then I not force myself. I kind of didn't force myself to shower, right? Because I just didn't feel this. I didn't feel the same sitting in front of the computer. All of a sudden it's 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, yeah, maybe I should shower, right?
Right.
Not that you can smell me or anything, but it's still just the way you present yourself. But I think by knowing you're going to flip the camera on, it's going to kind of force you at least to, brush your hair, I guess.
Right. At least brush it. Well, I always preface when they're worried about turning their camera on because they haven't been to the hairdresser, I show them my roots, and then we're good. I'm like, look, here's my roots. I haven't been to the hairdresser either, so we're good. Turn on your camera. There's
going to be a lot of us needing haircuts when this thing all lifts, right? On it. Right. So
either that, or I'm going to quit doing it and save a whole lot of money. One of the two.
Nice. And I think one of the last topics I kind of have is, and it's kind of blending in with this, is like training. You kind of talked about like jet training and things you're doing, but so maybe we can talk about avenues like for training. I know we're and you guys have done a lot of them, especially Holly. I know you've done a lot of webinars for the NAVUG/BC when you go onto the website there, and I've done some, and Jeff's done some, and a lot here. But just the plethora of training out there. And I just remember being a sales trainer, well, a lot of it was pointing people to the right resources. So, I mean, I guess, thinking of some of our listeners that are maybe using the software, that now they have this extra time, and, because it's the amount of information that is in NAV or Business Central is just, the capabilities are so much. And I mean, where would maybe direct somebody to maybe, if we're going to think outside the box, to where maybe you can see what, the capabilities that it has. Maybe, the funniest thing, you probably hear a lot more than me, and I'm sure Jeff does, is that when you talk to somebody about, oh, it does do that.
Right.
And it's like, it's done that for years. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. Right. So, maybe you can give some ideas on where to go for training for that.
Right. So a couple great places. Obviously, the NAVA community is a great place to go. Tons of recorded webinars, tons of, upcoming webinars. They have focus coming up that you're going to be able to participate in virtually, and just some good stuff there. Simple things. It doesn't even have to be big. Type in just one area if you're interested in relation management. There's a ton of webinars on relation management. Accounts receivable, looking at accounts payable, closing at the end of the month, end of the year, trying to think of, other areas, shipping ISVs. You can look, for webinars from the different ISVs. They've done their own showcases that you can review without having to have, a personal interaction with the ISV until you're sure you really want to talk to them, that kind of sales pitchy kind of thing, and you're afraid to reach out and stuff. There's tons of them out there on the NAVA community. We have them on our events page as well, that you can walk through and get a better feel for them before you have a one-on-one with that actual ISV and talk to them directly and see what it's like. So there's a lot out there just within the community. YouTube's a great place to look things up and find things. Again, like I said, we have our own events page with tons of Innovia training, and also ISVs and other opportunities there. And, if you're looking for something a little more substantial and paid, reach out to your partner. Your partner can provide that training. They have well-trained staff that can jump in at a moment's notice and give you some training. Anyone on the Innovia team, depending on their area of expertise, if you're looking for someone to walk through some things with your new employees, walk through some things with your accounts receivable team, your payables team, your purchasing team, your shipping department, whatever it is, we could put together, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours of training for you and walk through with your teams virtually without a problem. We're working on some workshops that we're going to present and offer to our clients and to anyone that would like to join. Across the board, we have a developers training that they're working on. We have basic financials that is getting ready to come out in the next month or so. They're working on some supply chain, some manufacturing training, and so there'll be workshops that'll be 2 to 3 hours long. The basic financials is 10 different segments. I think the developers is maybe 8 segments. Runs across 4 days. So lots of opportunities to get involved and get some training. I think sometimes that's the area we lack is we set it up, we show them what their job is, and then that's it. And there's so much more to that, from looking up tips and tricks, and even just getting everyone in your company to share their favorite NAV tip or trick or shortcut. You'll be surprised how many most of them don't know are there. And one of the first cool things that I learned in NAV was, that you could type T for today instead of typing out the whole date. And I thought that was fabulous. And from the accounts receivable side, at the beginning of my NAV experience, not having to type the date 03, 08, 08, 150 times in an hour was like a big save for me. To just be able to hit the letter T and bring up the date, or just put in today's date and not have to do month and year, and it would add that in. And so little tips and tricks like that are also, don't overlook those when you're sharing and working alongside people and getting them out there. Something I did On the user side was we would have a newsletter, and I would put in all those kinds of things. I'd give them little nav tips, and I'd give them Windows tips to utilize within the company, and sharing those things. And some of them were extremely helpful and time saving for them as well.
Very cool, Holly. Jeff, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think just to reinforce that idea of, we're thinking outside the box, but in a lot of ways, I think the most beneficial training when it comes to NAV or Business Central is, training on your system with your partner probably. And this might be, a time that if companies have some excess capacity because they're, either their supply chain is missing critical stuff, and so they've got people that that would have capacity for training, it might be a good time to try to take advantage of that. A handful of hours, and it might be a more convenient time to get a group of people, like get the whole purchasing department together. Something like that. So I would just encourage everyone to consider that as they're looking at ways, coming out of this situation stronger than when you went in.
Good points, Jeff. And we were talking earlier that and you being a past account manager, that it just seems like let's have this discussion. Oh, you're interested in this? Well, we're too busy to implement that. Well, maybe now if you're not as busy. Because I know a lot of times when no one wants to really go live in their busy season, right? Or when they're doing an upgrade or re-implementation. So I think now is the opportunity to really capitalize on that time. As I guess a question I have for you, Jeff, as a previous account manager, how often did you hear we were too busy to do that? Is that
right? Yeah, that was oftentimes the and what changed that dynamic from being too busy to do it. They got forced into something, either a maintenance contract was coming due, or there was a they couldn't put it off anymore because they couldn't buy client hardware that was compatible with an old version of what was ever on their server. And too busy until it's too late, and then it's a regrettable thing. So certainly, I understand the idea of being cautious with cash flow and not understanding, where the economy is going to land coming out of this. But for those companies, and we have, I think, the good fortune of working with several of them, we've seen some people take advantage of that and be strategic in this time.
Yeah, I have this, this mentality of if you're going to be in a space, the mindset needs to be you want to own the space, right? So our mindset here at Innovia is we want to be the RitzCarlton of partners, right? And that's kind of our mindset. And so, we want to own the space of being, when people think of I want to get the best I can get, service and support and advice, being led and so forth. We want to be on that. We know it's not a zero-sum game. We got to constantly work on our skills and our collaboration to help bring, that top tier support and customer service to our customers. And I think what happens is a lot of times people get complacent, like, I'm just not gonna do it right now because things are bad or whatever. The mindset is you just have to have that push forward. I mean, we are the top of our industry. We're this, whatever your mindset is, kind of controls a lot of your destiny of where you're going, right? And we're not going to settle for that. And I don't know, Holly, if I see you shaking your head a little bit there, on that. Anything you want to add to that?
That's where you really want to be. I was thinking of the story I heard about the RitzCarlton that really struck a chord with me. Was about a family that had been there well off. They were on one of the upper floors. We know what that means. And they had two teenagers. Jeff will love this story because the two teenagers were skateboarding in the hallway and messing around and playing with their soccer ball. And of course, somebody else on the floor didn't like it and called the front desk, and the manager had to come up and was very apologetic to the parents. And, they can't be doing that, and made them stop. And they were understanding, of course, and had their kids stop. And not too long later, he called them down to the lobby and took them into a ballroom. And here he had gone down and thought, what could he do to make these people stay, be what they were looking for, and give them, what their kids were going to look for and make them happy. And so he cleared out a ballroom and set it up so the kids could play in there and skateboard and play with their soccer ball and do their thing. And then he joined in and had a game with some of his staff against the family with the soccer ball and stuff. But, that story just resonated with me when I first heard it of, that's who we want to be. That's the kind of company and team we want to be is, when our clients call in, we don't want to be like, well, you can't do that. We want to be like, okay, maybe you really can't do it the way they're asking you to do it, but let's figure it out. Let's give them what they want. Let's make them successful. And, let's put our heads together and let's give them what they want. Let's make them happy and satisfied. And so our team motto is their success is our reward. We say it every day. Their success is our reward. And so we kind of live by that. But that story kind of stuck with me about being the RitzCarlton of who we are, and how do we get there?
So, Jeff, are you going to stay at that RitzCarlton? Where's that one at?
I don't even remember what they said.
That was not my experience staying at the Super 8s and Budgetels. I think I would have got a smack in the back of the head from my dad and my skateboard taken away for a few weeks.
Right.
But I like that version better.
That's a cool story because really when you travel, I've traveled a lot, and after a while a hotel room kind of becomes a hotel room. You want it in a nice, safe area, a clean room. But, why does it cost so much more to stay at a RitzCarlton? It's one word, service, right? They just go out of the way to take care of you and give you a good experience. So that's so cool. So any other tips you guys want to give on training?
Well, I would just say that, not that I want to give any tips, but maybe getting training on improving customer service would be something that all of our customers, that would be something they could focus on in this sort of, taking a breath moment that we have, like how can we deliver better service? And right. I think Holly alluded to how she's leading her team in that way, but that would be something for everyone that's listening to consider as well. What can you do in this time off to maybe improve your customer service process or, just to get that conversation going.
Great.
Yeah, that can go in so many different directions. We've talked about, especially in sales, right? A lot of it's about your culture. Okay. And you talked about the Ritz-Carlton. I think of Simon Sinek wrote a book. It's called The Why. I don't know if you ever read that book. And he was talking about how he was getting a cup of coffee at a Ritz-Carlton in Las Vegas for a convention. And this young man that was serving him the coffee just had this great attitude. And he said, he goes, "Oh, you just really appreciate your positive attitude. This is my 4th day in a row," and so forth. And he goes, so how well they treat you here. He goes, "So I love how they treat me here. My boss stops by and sees how I'm doing. The general manager comes by, see how I'm doing." And he goes, "It's not like that in my other job." I goes, "Well, what's your other job?" He goes, "Well, I worked at another casino on the floor." And he goes, "Well, what do you like there?" He goes, "Well, he always walks around and makes sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to do. And if you clock in early, you get in trouble. If you clock out late to get extra time, you get in trouble. And I just do what I have to do over there." And that whole mindset was, it's the same guy, right? And he's 2 different employees. The one where at the Ritz-Carlton where people actually care and kind of support, "Hey, can I get you anything what you need?" versus the one where the boss is coming down on them. So that, that other culture. And I didn't want to say the name of the place, because he did say the name of the place that would treat him like that. But I just find it interesting that, a lot of times we think it's the person and it can be the culture. So I think it's a good time to take a step back on how we treat each other in our culture and then have that team mindset. So I know we're kind of running close on time here. Anything you guys want to add before we end the podcast?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. And what you said, Steve, is that's the first step of our training with our team is training each other and treating each other how we want to treat our customers. And so practice our customer service and our customer care on one another and on the Innovia team before we take it out the door to our clients and other people. And so that just goes again to the culture is, we want to treat Josh when he sends in one of his tickets, just like we would a client that's actually going to pay us. But, I was fortunate this week. I got one of Jeff's tickets and I handled it just like I would if he was a client. And, I reached out to him. I asked him a couple of questions. I jumped in and looked at the system. I got Daniel involved. We fixed it. We reached back out to him, let him know that, hey, we took care of it. We removed the add-on that was there that was causing the problem. Let us know if there's anything else. And took care of it as quickly as we could and met his needs so that he could be up and running. But it's in-house as much as it is out of the house. And I think that's where it starts. And if we practice it here, we're going to do it when we go out the door. It becomes habit.
Well, thanks for that, Holly. And once again, it was great having you back on one of our podcasts. Thanks. I know it's been too long, so we'll have you definitely on another. We'll have you definitely on another podcast by the year 2024.
Wait.
I think it's going to be sooner than that, Steve.
Sooner than that, between now and then. I can see it happening, right?
Right.
And,
they'll just have to stay tuned and see when I show up.
That's right.
That's right.
So
keep checking back.
Keep checking.
I think we have some of our highest ratings when Holly's on, don't we?
That's because my mom watches it every day for a month.
Hi, Holly's mom.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
Plug your mom.
Group text
Mary.
goes out. Listen to our podcast. Nice.
Right. I email everyone I know, and then they watch.
Well,
But
very cool.
I tell people all the time to tune into you guys because you are great, very conversational, a lot of fun to listen to. I listen to you when I drive. I feel like I'm driving with Steve and Jeff, so a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank
Jeff?
you. No, I'm good. I'm ready for a wrap, Steve.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate everybody taking time to be on this podcast. And if you need to reach out to any of us, you can obviously you can go to the website at innovia.com. And when you click on it, Holly's face pops up. Can I help you? So I'm sure she gets poked a few times during the day from what I hear. Or you can obviously go to our website at innovia.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Holly, you're on Twitter, Holly. I think I see you sharing stuff quite a bit. What's your Twitter?
I have no idea.
She's at I have no idea.
I have absolutely no idea.
I have no idea. Right.
I will look it up and let you know.
We have a great presence on LinkedIn, but maybe we have to have a talk about our Twitter accounts here. But that could be another podcast, right? But and if you please reach out if you can reach out to me at Walt Steve on Twitter or directly through our website if I can offer any type of assistance for sales coaching on this. And Jeff, since you can't say no, reach out to Jeff.
Please do.
Please do. He does take Sunday finally off, so we're happy. We're happy for that. But anyway, everybody, thanks for this great podcast, and it's over. Have a great day.